Failure doesn't have to mean that you're doing something wrong or that you messed up or that you're bad or whatever it may mean in your head from society. Failure to you can just mean this is a reroute. This is a turning in my life. This is a time to pause, slow down, reevaluate, come back to my presence, come back to the things that are important to me, and release the rest. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to my channel. As always, I am so grateful that you are here today. And if you are new here, welcome. This channel is quite the hodgepodge, but I'm usually talking about how to live a more present, aligning, and fulfilling life. Just like I did on my podcast, Alignment Adventures. I'm taking a little break from that. But today's YouTube video kind of feels like a podcast episode. I just want to sit down and talk with all of you about failure. Failure can be a tough word and feeling and energy to navigate. And I just want to send so much compassion and empathy and just love to anyone out there feeling that feeling of failure. I felt it a lot in the past few years. So I just want to share my experience and also talk about ways that we can navigate failure and maybe redefine what failure means to us, because the word success and failure means something different to every single one of us. And we actually get to choose those definitions. Yes, there are definitions in the dictionary that I'm sure you can look up, but to you personally, you get to define what failure and success means to you. And I think that is such a beautiful thing to remember. And there are also so many gifts that come from failure. So I just want to list some things that I have failed at in the past year. And this is probably not even all of the things. These were just the things that I can think of off the top of my head. So the first big one that I'm sure a lot of you remember from the video I posted on here, or if not, if you're new here, you can go back and watch. One of the biggest failures I've experienced and my family has experienced is RV life. Again, calling it a failure, some people may not consider it a failure. To me, it was a failure. But again, I get to define what that word means to me, and I learned so much from that experience. But we dreamed about doing some kind of nomadic life in a vehicle, whether it be a van or an RV or something like that, for years. And I'm not even going to get into the whole story, but I had this dream for such a long time. And then through circumstance and synchronicity, we ended up getting Steven's grandpa's RV. Like, everything flowed really well. Quitting our jobs flowed really well, and everything was just lining up. And then by the time we got into the RV, everything went wrong, from like every RV movie that you watch to me getting like the most sick I've been in a long time. And we really were just kind of like forced to quit or to fail at it. So it lasted 2 weeks. It was supposed to last like 4 or 5 months, maybe even longer than that. So again, depending on how you define that, that could be considered a failure. But we learned so much from that experience, what we don't like about RVing and what we still want to have someday, because we still want to travel in some kind of motorized vehicle. Like, that dream hasn't gone away. But after that happened, I felt lost for a really long time. And I still feel that kind of lost soul energy. I've talked about it a lot on my podcast, like I've said. But just anyone out there that had a dream for so long, and maybe you accomplished that dream or you got to that milestone, whatever it may be, and it was nothing like you thought it would be, man, that could be such a scary and disorienting feeling. Now, before I talk about how we can redefine failure, let me mention my other failures. And this isn't like a pity party. This isn't like, woe is me. I'm sharing this because I'm human and I have failures, just like you probably have experienced failures or things that didn't go your way. So that's why I'm sharing this, just so we can relate here and share our humanness together. By no means is this a pity party. Okay. So some other things I failed at: gardening. I had a dream of having a garden in our backyard, and I tried to plant gardens from seeds, and that all just went terribly wrong. I actually can't even keep the flowers in my flower. It's like a little tray thing outside the window. I can't even keep those alive. Like, I have miserably failed at gardening. I really wanted to have a garden. I think I talked about it in my ways that we can be more environmentally friendly video. So just so you know, that failed. Nothing grew. Like it grew for a while, but then they all ended up dying. I severely underestimated how much knowledge and energy and time it takes to garden. I thought it could just be like a cute little hobby I had on the side. It is serious business. But with that being said, even though I failed at it, I learned a lot, of course. And my father in law has a thriving garden, and he's been giving us some of his produce. So it's interesting how we're still getting the benefits of gardening, even though I don't have a garden. That's even happened with RV too. Like some of the moments we were really dreaming about with RV life, we still get here. Like having coffee outside and having just like slow moments, whether it be at our house or Steven's family cabin, or you've even gone camping, tent camping here in Missouri and just exploring this local area. So even though you feel like you failed at it, you may still be getting what you wanted out of that situation. It just looks different, or it's coming in a different way. And isn't that so interesting to just observe that? Maybe the thing that you were wanting didn't come in the way you wanted, but you're still getting it through other ways in your life. Hopefully that makes sense. I've noticed that for RV life and gardening. Another thing I failed at, and this makes me a little sad, but I'm also really proud of myself for putting myself out there in this way, was I tried to teach a course on how to live your most aligned life. It's like a year and a half ago, spring 2023. And I put this whole course together. I advertised it on my podcast and no one signed up. And that's okay. I'm still really proud of myself. I even had a podcast episode on what I learned from that failure. So I'll link it here if you're interested. Again, learned so much from that situation, but I'm also like, I was re-listening to some podcast episodes and I had my advertisement in the episode for this course. And I was like, damn, I'm really proud of this girl, this version of me that like put herself out there. So when you're looking at a past failure, maybe you can just consider how proud you are of yourself for like going after that thing, or at least trying. Like, what is that cliche saying? It's better to try and it be a whoops than a what if. You could be wondering for the rest of your life, if you didn't try this thing, what would happen? Or you could try it and fail at it and be like, okay, this isn't the right time and space. And that's another thing about failure. Maybe it's failing right now or failing right now, but it will happen down the line. It just isn't the right time and space. So many beautiful things to consider when it comes to failure. Now, another thing I want to talk about, and this definitely I would not consider a failure, especially if it happened to someone else. I know so many people that this has happened to, but again, I just want to share my experience. And in the moment, like compounding with all these other things, I felt like a failure. But I experienced very early on a pregnancy loss this summer, like not that long ago, last month. And I even debated sharing it on here. Like, I still feel like it's something I haven't fully processed. I am starting therapy again. I go on Thursday, so that is good. Again, any of you that are listening that have experienced that, I send so much love and compassion to you. I know that it's a surprisingly large statistic. Anyways, when all that happened, one of the first thoughts in my mind, just being vulnerable and honest, was like, man, I failed at this too. Like, just add this to the list of things that I failed at. Now I do not see it that way. I know that souls come here when they're ready. I have such an interesting perspective when it comes to life coming into this world. I've read a lot of books about past life regressions, and I'm a very spiritual person, as you may or may not know. So I know deep down that that soul just wasn't ready for life on earth at this time and space. That doesn't mean that it's not a very sad and hard thing to go through. And I realize not everyone looks at pregnancy loss that way, especially at different stages. Like I said, I was pretty early on when it happened. But at the time, like I said, it felt like a failure. And that's another beautiful thing about failure. Even though, like, if that happened to you, you're not failing. I just want to be clear about that. That's just how I felt in that instance. Everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to happen. Doesn't mean it's not devastating and so sad and not something you should process. But anyways, I digress. I just don't want anyone to take that the wrong way. But another thing about something not going your way is it really can be an invitation to pause and reevaluate how things are going in your life, or what you're focusing on, or maybe the energy you're embodying. And when that happened, and then I got like the stomach flu afterwards, like a week afterwards. So that was not a fun few weeks. And maybe it's just my body resetting. I don't know. But man, that was such a huge sign for me to just stop and focus on my overall well-being, which ironically was an intention for the summer. So I feel like I have been doing, but like even on a deeper level, just like nourishing myself and truly focusing on the things that bring me joy and not getting caught up in the BS that is life, like the chasing things and wondering where you're going to be in the next 5 years. I just feel like that's such a common thing for us to focus on. It's like we're playing the game of life, like that board game, right? And you're like, well, when am I going to get engaged? When am I going to get married? When am I going to have a baby? When am I going to have the next baby? It's like blah, 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 blah until it's over, right? Like it was just such a beautiful reminder to me to be truly present. That is something that is so beyond our control, like bringing souls and human beings into this reality, so beyond our control. Like it was just a huge lesson in letting go, releasing, and coming back to my presence, which always feels so good when I have those reminders because I forget a lot. That's why I had my podcast, because I forget all of these things a lot. So I recorded it to have those reminders for myself. So I hope this was beneficial for you. This did not come out the way I was planning to. I thought I was going to talk about my failures and then ways we can learn from our failures, but the lessons just kind of seem to be sprinkled in the middle. But again, going back to how we can redefine what failure means to you. Failure doesn't have to mean that you're doing something wrong or that you messed up or that you're bad or whatever it may mean in your head from society. Failure to you can just mean this is a reroute. This is a turning in my life. This is a time to pause, slow down, reevaluate, come back to my presence, come back to the things that are important to me, and release the rest. So if you're going through anything that feels like a failure or is just deeply hard in this season, know, one, that you're not alone. Two, there's nothing wrong with you. And three, you get to decide how you see this event in your life. You get to decide how you define this event in your life and how you take it with you and the lessons that you bring into this next season. And please, like I'm doing, reach out to people if you need help processing these things. There are so many options for therapy. There are so many people around you that I know would love to connect with you on these things and learn from you on these things. And also leave just your comments down below. Like maybe you relate to some of this stuff, or how do you see failure? How have you navigated things in your life that didn't go the way that you planned? Because it happens to us all. We are all human beings on this planet, at least right now in this lifetime, just going through it, man. And being human is not for the lighthearted. Like just pat yourself on the back. I believe our souls chose to come here in this time and space on this planet, and it's no joke. There's a lot going on. So just the fact that you are a human here surviving on this planet, you should give yourself so much credit. So I hope you found this video useful. I'm sending so much love to every single one of you out there. Please subscribe if you're new here. I try to do videos every week. It doesn't always happen because, again, life is lifing like it is for all of us. Like this video if you found it useful. And I'm just sending you all so much love, all the gratitude, all the highest vibes. It's okay if you're not feeling high vibe, but you can return to that state. Process what you need to, and then you can move up the emotional scale. Love you all so much, and I will see you in the next video.